Well, good evening. It's 9 p.m., November the 20th, 2022, Vernon, BC, British Columbia. So, how was everybody tonight? I was just sitting here and I thought, well, I think I feel like saying something that I really don't know if I should, but I I'm 88 right now, and I'm living alone. I've been living alone for 14 years in this apartment, and it's a good size apartment, about 800 square feet. It's the largest one in this building. I was lucky to get it. And anyway, I've been here for 14 years, but it's really wearing on me because cooking for one person, dragging groceries and packing groceries when I have a heck of a time to even walk. Seems like. I don't know. Anyway, I kind of looked in moving into this care home. It was the original one, started in 1964 in Vernon. Vernon Rest Home is called. It has 50 units, and they do all, of course, their own cooking and their own stuff like that, and it's been recommended by many people, and it's on a 2-acre park-like thing with a creek running through it, and it's not bad. The only problem is I just have a tough time trying to figure out how I would handle that. But I keep telling myself, the time's going to come when you should be doing this, because I've had problems where I've kind of fell down and had trouble getting up and all that sort of stuff. And but I had to laugh. I was there the other day and I thought, well, I'm going to reapply, because last time I was there, I just canceled out. I just got panicky and said, no, this is not for me yet. Well, that was a year ago. So, I mean, I'm a year older, and I'll be 89 in April. I'm getting pretty close to being of age soon, I guess. But anyway, I went over to reapply, and he couldn't find the application I'd made. It was gone. So he had to redo it. But anyway, I went back. I had to wait for him to get back to his office. I'm sitting in the front with 3 old ladies there, and this is 12:30, I guess. It's because I waited till after lunch. I thought, well, I won't go there at lunchtime. Anyway, these 3 are sitting right where you come in the door, and they're looking out the window. And that seems to be the only place they can look out the window. But as it turned out, they'd had lunch. One was awake and talking to me. The other 2 were sitting asleep already, sleeping. And I thought, this can't be very good advertising. I mean, I suppose it's okay, but I thought, oh, man, what am I getting into, Oh, now the thing is, I keep telling myself, and I've had others tell me too, that it's most likely better to do something when it's your decision to do it than to be forced into it later, where you've got nothing to say about it. That'd be, that would grate on me pretty hard. But I sort of, well, I prayed about it. I prayed about it a bit. And you see, when I pray, I honestly believe that God hears it. And, you know, I shouldn't, well, no, I should say this. I was in the hospital here, I don't know, 6, 8 months ago for something. I forget what it was. I think it was hiatus hernia was so bad I couldn't get it to stop. Anyway, I was in there, and after a day or two, I started, eating again, and it was about 7 o'clock at night or something, and I was still laying there, and I asked the young nurse there, I said, have you got any sandwiches left? I need a glass of milk and a sandwich would sure go good for me right now. And I said, well, yeah. Well, she said, I'll maybe have a look and see if there is something there. And I thought, I just said, I prayed to God. I said, would you allow me to have a egg salad sandwich here now? You think there would be one available? If there's one available, I would like that. If that's your will. And I just said that, and I just thought, well, that's kind of silly. Me praying for an egg salad sandwich, 7 o'clock at night, to the creator of the universe. What the heck? Anyway, she hollered back down the hallway and says, well, yeah, I found a sandwich here, she said, and it's an egg salad sandwich. Is that okay? Ha! I said, yes, that's fine. And I laughed. I thought, now, how am I going to reconcile this? Am I going to say that God did this, or am I going to say it's a coincidence, or what? But in the meantime, I was thinking about this, and I thought, I don't know if it's a coincidence or what. I don't really care. I prayed for it. It happened. I'll give credit to God for it because I prayed for it. But the thing that crossed my mind was maybe what people should realize is that God is so great. When I consider the things in the world, and I've talked about this a little bit before, when I consider the things in just nature and like the cells and forming of the cells, the eye, I mean, how did the eye get formed? But anyway, when you see some cells formed and some have motors, they have actual motors that go up to 2,000 RPM, stop on a dime, on a quarter turn, and reverse. Now you explain that to me. How did that happen? You can take your evolution and just shove it. I mean, it's just impossible. And when I think of that, and I think of, I have thought several times that this whole planet, this whole idea of people being born on this planet, created, and God said it's for his children, for his family that he wants to develop a family, a close relationship family, not not the angels. I mean, for some reason, the angels are separate and they are workers or messengers or whatever. He doesn't call them sons or anything like that. But for an entity, a power, a spiritual power that's hard for us to understand. I mean, for me, it's hard to understand. I don't know about anybody else. A huge, huge, powerful entity that can be in a little, when he's talked to people, sometimes he's whispered to them, or other times he's roared at them on a mountain. And that everything that you see in nature and everything that you read, well, it comes from the Bible, really. Now, just as a side deal, I was watching this one preacher, and he was talking to me about things, and his theme, what he was talking about, was that the Bible is an external heavenly book. It's a book from basically out of the realm of this planet, but it's given to this planet. You know, for a book, there is no other book in the history of the world like that, like the Bible. It's been around for thousands of years. People buy them and put them away. They like to have one, but they don't read it. Most people don't read it. I mean, I have a tough time reading. I like to watch it on the internet where it's read to me. I can do that, but I have a tough time reading it because I don't know. My eyes are not good enough or what. But I've, listened to a lot of the Bible on the internet. Now, it's not the easiest book to understand. But here's the thing, is that when I consider that God has a plan of 7,000 years for this planet to do whatever it's going to do, and we're getting close to the end of the 6,000, and the other 1,000 coming up would be the millennial reign of Jesus Christ to make 7,000 years. But for an entity that is so great and so powerful, who has made arrangements to create this planet we are on, and in this universe, our planet is a small little blue ball hanging in space. There's much bigger planets, many of them. And now God the Father has chosen, and Jesus Christ has chosen, that this is going to be where their city is going to be, 1,500 miles square and 1,500 miles high, that Jesus says he is building for those who love him and who believe in him. Because the criteria is not money, not anything else, not how many times you go to church or what you believe in or who you donated to. I mean, people really do think that being a good person will get you eternal life. And that's wrong, because God says, no way, that's not right. And he says the only criteria, really, he said, is to believe that I sent my son to the earth to be born and to live as a man and be crucified for the sins of the people of the world, because my law says if you don't keep my 10 commandments, that the penalty is death. And he said, I don't change. Those laws are forever. They're never going to change. Now, I sometimes think, and that's all I can do. I have no way of proving anything or knowing anything for absolute sure. Is that God may have contemplated or planned every single thing that happens on this earth from one iota to the next, from the first time he did anything till the very time when when he takes up residence when he comes on the earth and into his kingdom of God, which will be in the New Jerusalem, which will be in this huge, huge city. 1,500 miles square and 1,500 miles high. You can swallow that if you can. I have a tough time. That's like from Vernon, British Columbia to Los Angeles on one side. And, you know, I've been building on a project for 33 years, and it's going to be up to 451 homes. They're all sold now except 2 or 3. So I'm pretty well finished that project, and that's the end of it for me. But anyway, that's nothing, nothing compared to, and I thought, I consider that to be a fairly large project. 451 homes, one deal. And I went out on Saturday in the morning, about 8:30, to the rec center that I built in 1992. And they had a Christmas craft sale and a bake sale. And from experience, I found out if you're not there by 9 o'clock or 9:30, it's gone. And sure enough, the rec center was just packed full of people at 8:30, quarter to 9, and their craft fair was going full blast, and they were just selling their bake sale like crazy. And I only bought what, $10 or $15 worth. But anyway, when I started this thing in 1989, I had been sitting out there for a good year or so because it was in receivership, and I'd go out there and I'd sit and look at it because it was a developed 100 acres. Only out of that 100 acres, there was 100 lots serviced with water, sewer, garbage, and you had to do your own garbage, but roads, power, water, everything in there, and it's sitting there and just sitting there, empty. And there was 101 serviced lots already done. And I told this guy who I got to know, he's a pretty well-off guy, and he actually moved from Dawson Creek area in Alberta to Kelowna to sort of retire. But he bought 50 acres right in the middle of Winfield, and he was living in a house there, and I got him to, well, that was afterwards, but anyway, I told him to buy this place. I said, and I'll build you a little city. And he said, poo-poo, you won't. Yeah. But I said, well, yes. I said, we will. And we'll make an adult community out of it. And he bought it for $150,000. 101 serviced lots. Mind you, you don't buy the land because it's leased land. But all the roads were in, all the pavement, all the septic tanks, all the water lines, everything like that was in. And then, power to each lot, telephone to each lot, cable TV to each lot for just a little over $1,000 a piece. Well, we carried on with that for a long time. He died a few years ago, and I'm still there and working with his sons, and they're getting to be 65 years old, whatever. So I'm on my way out of there. Now, what happens, I don't know. I mean, will I be able to move into this care home and live there for a couple of years or whatever? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, how does anybody have any idea? But I dread it in a way, and I look forward to it in a way. because I know that I've got to realize that I am getting pretty old. I think I have been blessed with, well, a fairly good mind, it seems like. And I don't really worry about Alzheimer's or something like that because I think I'm just about past that stage. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm still on computers all the time, and I've built computers, and I mean, people a lot younger than me that don't want to have anything to do with computers. Maybe they have a cell phone now. I got about 4 or 5 of them, and well, whatever. So the this business of what kind of caught my attention was when this guy said, this book, he said, it's a handbook, God's handbook for humanity. And it's a heavenly book given to people on earth. And I thought, you know, that is most likely a fact. That is most likely true. Because, you know, I have in the last, I don't know, year or two, decided that I don't put my trust in anything that people and humans say. I don't care if it's my son or daughter or whoever. I think most of them, I think they've been deceived quite a bit. And my children have been deceived quite a bit. My wife had no real love for religion or anything like that, so I had a hard time with my family. But the the thing is, I think you have to admit, whoever is listening to me right now has to admit, this Isaiah wrote 4,000 years ago that a time would come when evil would be classed as good and good would be classed as evil. And you just take that and mull on that for a minute. Because if you aren't living in that kind of time now, I know that I am. And I can't trust a thing people say. Because the idea of telling the truth is so far away from people that there's just lies, lies, lies. Like all commerce and stuff like that is not true for anything. You know, they raise the price as high as they can to get anything they can, which most likely has always been the case. But the business that the people that support things that are absolutely evil and they brag about it. Politicians brag about it. And if they brag about it enough, people vote for it. And people like it. They like being evil. And I mean, I've never been a saint of any kind, but, you know, I've certainly, I know the difference between what's evil, you know, what's right and what's wrong, I'm quite sure. I know I don't follow it because I usually do things that I shouldn't do, and I know I shouldn't do it, but that's what I do. And the things I should do, I really don't do. And I know that. And it's like you know, I think most people have that problem. And one of the things that I could mention is that I have a fear of one thing, and that is the fear of hardening. Hard-heartedness, stubbornness, that's what happens with That's what happens with people who agree with abortion, for instance. There is no reasonable way you can tell me that it's a good thing to promote that a woman should kill her own children. And that just, to me, that's, when they call that freedom and whatever, that is just a big lie. And, there's so many other groups now that are lie, just a lie. Man, it's hard to, a fellow like me who grew up, when I grew up, there was no such thing as uh, homosexuality. No, I never knew that at all. I had no idea about anything like that because there was none. There was none in my world. I knew nothing about abortion, that's for sure, and the transgender and stuff like that. That's that's just crazy. And people basically got married. They didn't shack up that much. I didn't know of anybody who shacked up. Women got married. Men got married. They had families. I grew up in a farm family in Alberta, and one of the things that's amazed me in all these 88 years so far is how well my mother and father treated me, especially my father. He never once said a word to me, in anger or anything. Never. Not once. And he was like, he was proud of me before there was anything to be proud of. And catered to me in every way. I mean, I could have not have had a father more loving father if I'd have tried. There is no way. And I had a good life growing up on a farm, but I knew nothing except good acceptance and oh, that'll never happen to most people, not anymore. My mother was, she was, like a prince of a mother. There was nothing she wouldn't do for her children, and nothing. And the other thing is, there was nothing she wouldn't do for her husband, my father. She would never let anybody say anything about it, no matter what he did. If he came home pissed drunk with a bunch of guys, she'd get up at midnight, put her dress on and apron and whatever, and come out and cook him a bunch of ham and eggs and whatever, 1 o'clock in the morning, and gladly do it because Dad was home and he had brought a couple of guys with him. I don't think you see too many people do that anymore. Ah, man, and Dad was the same way. I had a motel for a while in Vernon, and I sold the motel, and I wanted to take Dad and take him back to Sweden, where he came from when he was, I think, 2 years old, when his father came to Canada, and I wanted him and I to go there. And I got so carried away. Pretty soon my wife said, "Oh, I got to go," and then my mom said, "Well, I got to go," and I thought, wow, how is this going to work? So I just threw up my hands and said, forget it. We're not going. Anyway, I got back there in 2020, I think it was, maybe, or something like that, and or 2019, I'm not sure. But anyway, I got back to Wilhelmina, Sweden, and went back to where he was born and where they lived, and all that was left of their buildings, like that'd be 100 and some years ago, was a little cook shack in the bush. All the other buildings had gone, and there was just different buildings there now. But anyway, I found some relations there and visited with them, and this Sven Johnson guy drove me around, and I went to his place. You know, nice supper, family was there and whatever. And when I was going out there from Umeå, which is on the coast of Sweden, I flew there and took a bus from Umeå to Wilhelmina, which I'm guessing was most likely like 60 miles or something like that. And I'm looking through the window on the bus and I'm saying to myself, you know, if I didn't know the difference, I'd think I was in northern Alberta or something like that. And but the only thing is they had a lot more lakes in northern, and this is in central northern Sweden. And above this area was, well, I think the Lapland actually came down to that area, but there was some stores that had Laplander paraphernalia in it and whatever. But the, you know, they're a white race, that's for sure. And there was a woman in there who did a genealogy for me back to 1766 or something. And I started looking at the names in this genealogy, and Abrahamson and Danielson and, you know, half sounding Israeli Jewish names. But it's not Jewish. Jewish was different. But, you know, makes me wonder, I guess, that I have come to the conclusion that the white race in this world is Israelis, and from the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and who developed all through the Caucasians, and they traveled all over. There was 6 million of them that were left when they were taken out of Israel. But, you know, over 2,500 years, that 6 million could develop into quite a few. And, you know, there's places in the Bible said that God says that they will completely forget who they are and where they came from, which is true. But they all travel through, you know, Eastern and Western, well, most likely Western Europe, mostly. And then they all immigrated to Canada and Australia and New Zealand. And they already were in, you know, Ireland, Scotland, England, Scandinavia, and France and Belgium and Holland and Denmark and whatever. And in my view, North America was held in reserve for this. That's exactly what it looks like to me. And held in reserve for thousands and thousands of years. And I don't know where else the white race came from. when they all came from that area, and that's where the 10 tribes traveled to. That's where they just kept moving till they got into Western Europe. and English kings and whatever, uh, they fit the bill for somebody on the throne of David till Christ returns. Oh man, I don't know. You know, God said, I will sift them out of the nations and I won't lose one. The other thing is there's people who looked into this and just out of Germany alone, there was 4 million Germans immigrated to North America. And of all the ones who immigrated out of Germany, everyone who immigrated had a Nordic skull. The round-faced Assyrian skulls did not leave. They stayed. And that's kind of amazing. Yeah, it's, yeah, and you know, you go back to the predictions, not the predictions, but the prophecies of God who said the promises of Abraham to these tribes who were descendants of Abraham would be postponed because they broke his law and they got taken out of their own homeland. And when that 2,520 years was over, just like they woke up, they started building things, ships, pretty soon steam engines, and all kinds of things. And they woke up, and then they got to be so many of them, they had to immigrate to North America. That I think God held that in reserve for them. Was part of his plan. Some of it is beyond me, that is for sure. And some of it I have to guess at, I guess, because there's no way I can know for sure. But I was going to say that, you know, I can't trust or believe in, well, certainly not political people or even preachers and religion. I can only believe in the red letters in the right Bible where they have the words and the actual words of Jesus Christ, or God in the Old Testament, his commandments, sayings from his prophets. That I can believe. But I can't believe a thing else. Everything else in this world now is total lies. And you have to remember, Jesus Christ, absolutely the last thing he said to his disciples when he was going to leave this earth, as he was going to be rising up, he said, don't be deceived. And that is I remember that and I take that to heart because when I hear people talk about things, I know it's not their thoughts, not their ideas. They are parroting what they've been told. And the people that are telling it to them are so good at it that they immediately consider it to be true. It could be the biggest lie, and right now we're living with people who will lie, bald-faced lie, and people will just eventually just say, okay, it must be true. Yeah, must be true. And that is such a shame that the world has gotten to that point, which means we're getting close to the end of this age. There's no question about that. And it's in this last generation that things are really going bad. And it's like a frog in a pan of warm water that's sitting on a fire. When it starts to boil, he's had it, and he doesn't know it. Slowly gets warmer and warmer, and he doesn't realize it. That's how human nature is right now. Yeah. Well, anyway, there is there's a lot of bad news coming, and bad news that people are going to have to go through. But the thing is, there is an end to all this, and a tremendous good news at the end for those who not get hard-hearted and don't ask for forgiveness and just think that they have no reason to be humble about anything, and that doesn't work. It is such a good thing that God is totally open for forgiveness of anything, anytime. But people who humble themselves, who don't allow themselves to get, God says that He will not condemn them. He will allow them to condemn themselves. And He says He will turn them over to a reprobate mind that just has no conscience. No conscience, no remorse for anything they've said or done. And that is what seals them their fate. And you know, I break God's law, it seems like, every day somehow or another. I mean, in thought, word, and deed. And that seems to be the problem with human nature. And I guess God knows that. So, well, it's December is coming up pretty soon. And pretty soon it's going to be the end of 2022. Man, oh man, things just fly by. You know, I have no idea how many winters or Christmases I've got to see yet. None at all. No idea. I've seen quite a few. So anyway, uh, all I can say is that we're going to go through tough times, but there's good times. Good times. There's a tremendously good future for most people who believe that God is in charge. Thank you very much. Good night.